Hello, welcome to my channel. Today we are looking into some of the unidentified that are known as the Fort Meyers 8, I believe. Here's one of them, and it says, yes, the Fort Meyers 8. So this says this is an unidentified male, and it would be easier, I believe, to do them one at a time instead of trying to throw them all in one video. But I have them all in one video for now, and then maybe I'll break them down, because you can't go through to see who all they could be if you've got so many in one video for me, because I can't. Well, I can't. It's really difficult. Because I'm not a professional YouTuber as far as creating the videos and trying to have that many tabs open and recording it and pausing it and things like that. So this unidentified male was found in 2002 in Florida, and it says his estimated date of death was months prior. He was 30 to 59 years old, 5'3" to 5'11". That's a lot of difference. He had a gold watch. He was located on Zelma Road in Punta Gorda, Florida on January 6, 2002. Early into the investigation, he was speculated to be a victim of serial killer Daniel Conahan, who killed several men, mostly in the LGBTQ community, in the 1990s. And I bet he killed a lot more. And there's 5 other victims who remain unidentified, and these victims were discovered in Fort Myers, Florida in 2007, and 3 of the 8 were identified. So, and let's see, we have this one, and so here's a sketch. I think the artists do excellent work with their reconstructions and their renditions. And it says he was 5'4" to 5'10", 25 to 45 years old. Described as medium build but unknown of the weight. Some occupation injuries, possibly from hard work. Arthritis noted in his back and hips suggests he may have had AS fractures to the right ribs, 8 to 10, and lumbar. See, I don't know if the fractures, oh yeah, they wouldn't have. Okay, so evidence of good dental care, 2 composite fillings in his posterior teeth. Okay, March 23, 2007, a land surveyor discovered 2 human skulls in a wooded area near Rockville and Arcadia Streets. Fort Myers police, with the help of area agencies, cadaver dogs, and forensic experts, recovered a total of 8 sets of skeletal remains. Investigators found no clothing nor remnants of coffins, body bags, or anything else that might be used to hold human remains. There were no footprints or other signs that anyone had recently been to the scene. The men who would have become known as the Fort Myers 8 were found within 50 yards of one another and had been killed sometime between 1987 and 2001. There was no skin or clothing left on the remains. There were no signs of trauma immediately evident. A forensic examination of the remains indicated that all 8 men were ranging from 18 to 49 years old. 7 of the 8 men had first-rate dental care. One of the men was believed to have been homeless or had a rough life based on bone damage and poor dental care. The area where the remains were located is owned by the city of Fort Myers. The location is isolated and the roads consist mostly of sandy dirt. Thanks to DNA, police were able to identify 3 of the 8 men, 2 in 2007 and another one in 2008, and then it talks about the remaining ones. So, and then this man went missing in Fort Myers, Florida in 1995, March 13, and he was 24 years old and 6 foot tall, 190 to 205 pounds, light brown hair and blue eyes. He had the nicknames Philip, Ace, or Philip Wolf. And it talks about his scars and fractures. He was last seen in the evening hours leaving the vicinity of 400 block of Van Buren Street in Fort Myers, Florida. A week later, his vehicle was located abandoned in the Meadow subdivision located on Long Meadow Boulevard in Sarasota, Florida. His wallet was left inside. I think I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me. Philip Koss was a Pine View graduate. He was studying music and mechanical engineering at the University of Florida, but after a nervous breakdown, he had moved into a group home in Fort Myers. So I thought, well, maybe since he went missing, maybe he could be one of the victims. And then we have this man, and he went missing in Tampa, Florida. And he was 31 years old, and he was 5'9", 150 to 160 pounds. It says James Shoemaker went missing October 20th, 1995, after being seen at Parthenian Cafe, a gay bar in downtown Tampa, Florida. Mark had been dropped off to the nightclub. His automobile was left at home. And then he was never seen or heard from again. So I was wondering if he could have been a victim. This man is missing since 2001, December of 2001. And I'm not sure if he could be a victim or when they found the bodies, but he's all the way in Louisiana. And he was missing his right toe. So, and there's the information about that if you want to pause it and read it. So there's two of them that went missing at the same time, and one was his girlfriend and one was him. So, and then we have, this is one of the unidentified males in Fort Myers, Lee County, Florida. Estimated date of death 1987 to 2001. He could have been white or Hispanic, 26 to 45 years old, 5 foot tall to 5'7". And there's the artist's renderings of what he might have looked like. So if you know who one of these people might be, you should contact authorities. Here's someone that went missing from Miami-Dade County, Florida. And there's a lot of other people that went missing. But I thought maybe I'll throw some of them in here in case one of them was one of their victims. He went missing, I believe, it looks like his vehicle went missing as well. So if his vehicle went missing as well, it's possible he wrecked in the water or something, but I'm not sure. But I'm leaving him in there. And this is an unidentified male, one of the that they found, his remains. 25 to 35 years old, 5'9" to 6'2". So, and there's more information on that. Once again, it's repeated information for the most part. And this man went missing from Lake Worth, Palm Beach County, Florida, and he's been missing since 1998. He was 5'8", 35 years old, and 175 pounds. It says Claypool, a West Palm Beach police detective, was last seen in 1998, in Lake Worth, Florida. He disappeared while trying to surface from a 240-foot dive, so that's not going to be, yeah, it sounds like he drowned, so we should take him off of there. And then we have this young man. He went missing from Orlando, Florida. He was 27 years old, and it was 1998 in October. And let's see. He was a rave club promoter, was last seen October 6, 1998, when he drove a disc jockey who had performed at an Impact Club to Orlando International Airport. Besides his involvement in Impact, Johnson owned a store that sells smoking materials and T-shirts, and he had started his own record label. He was last seen on State Highway 436 between Orlando and Cocoa, Florida. His car was found abandoned in a shopping center parking lot in Winter Park, Florida, days later in Orlando, but police think he was killed in Brevard County, and the killers drove the car to Orlando to mislead investigators. Investigators are operating under the assumption that Johnson was killed for business-related reasons. Detectives say they think there was more than one killer and that the killers knew Johnson's routine. Wow. Johnson was not in debt, owned a house, and had a couple $1,000s in the bank. but the internal IRS was seeking $90,000 from Johnson in back taxes and penalties. However, police don't think he would flee to avoid the IRS because he had so many business interests and foul play is suspected. So I'm going to leave him in here anyway. And this is one of the unidentified males as well. It says he's 18 to 35. He could be white or Hispanic. 5'8" to 6'3". So he's described as a tall man with a possible limp. And there's that other information once again. And then we have this man went missing from Newport Richey, Florida. He was 38 years old, 6'1", short curly brown hair, blue eyes. He was last seen at his father's residence for Christmas in 1995. After not being able to reach Paul for several months and discovering his residence was being foreclosed, his family found all of his belongings left behind and never heard from him again. Paul had 3 outstanding warrants for his arrest. Let's see. Then we have this man, and his name is Kyle Effler, and he's been missing since 1999 in Naples, Florida. He was 20 years old and 5'10", 160 pounds. He may have had long curly hair, green eyes. On July 28th, around 11 a.m., he went to see his mother at Germain Honda BMW where she worked in East Naples. He borrowed $20 for gas and said he was going to see his girlfriend and then headed to work at 4:30 at the Grouper House where he worked as a waiter. He never visited his girlfriend. He never dropped off his mother's dry cleaning and errands she'd asked him to do. He left a note reading, "Gone to find my river and myself." The day after he disappeared, his mother filed a missing persons report with the sheriff's office. Upler was driving a 1988 Toyota Camry and was found a few days later. The car was abandoned at the Coastal Prairie Trail at Flamingo Everglades National Park in Monroe County, Florida. The Everglades National Park receipt in his car was dated July 28th. A search of the car turned up some camping gear, a framed backpack, a duffel bag full of clothes, a jar of peanut butter, some crackers, and a few journals. Hinting that he may have planned the trip, Epler had talked about going to the Fakahatchee Strand in the Everglades. He liked traveling and meeting new people. He'd gone on several trips to New Orleans, Texas, and North Carolina, where he was attending Santa Fe College in Gainesville studying zoology. He volunteered at Animal Control, the Humane Society, and during his college years he worked at several snake farms. Adler's mother checked his room for hiking boots and found at least a pair missing from the home. A navy hat with a white star on it that he always wore was also missing. His shirt was found about 3 miles along the trail in the Everglades National Park. He was on medication but not taken with him. He has not been seen or heard from since. Okay, and then we have this young man who was 21 years old, 5'8", missing from Orlando, Florida since August 2001. Blonde hair and blue eyes. He left from Romania and went to Europe to stay with their father and continue his high school studies there. In 2001, he applied for a tourist visa at the American Embassy. He passed the interview and obtained the visa. He landed in New York about a month. He called his father to ask him to send some money, saying that he was robbed of his luggage and money. At that point, he gave the address 624 Lexington Avenue, Orlando, Florida, and a phone number. Perhaps it was necessary in order to receive money using Western Union services. It says that he did get the money, and that was the last time he was ever heard from. So they don't know what happened to him. And the Salvation Army was the corresponding address that he had given. So I'm wondering if he sounds like he could have been a victim, because well, we'll get into that in a minute. And then there's this gentleman from Louisiana, because I was looking into Louisiana thinking maybe some of them might be from Louisiana, but it's more likely that they're actually just from Florida or in that area. And this one, I believe, has been identified. This one is 5'6" to 6'1", white with possibly an unknown mixture, and I think he was identified already. So, and this is a Wikipedia page about Daniel Conahan. And he's a convicted American murderer, rapist, and suspected serial killer. He was convicted of one murder, but has been linked to dozens murders, mostly of transients seeking employment and gay men in the Charlotte County, Florida area in what came to be known as Hog Trail murders. He was born in Charlotte, North Carolina, and moved with his family to Florida shortly after birth. When he was a teenager, he discovered he was homosexual. This displeased his parents, who sent him to several psychiatrists. He graduated Miami High School and joined the Navy. In 1978, he was nearly court-martialed for taking fellow naval officers off base for sex and was discharged a few months later after getting into a fight with a man upon whom he had attempted to force oral sex. After his discharge, he stayed in Chicago for 13 years before moving back to Florida to live with his elderly parents in 1993. In 1995, he became a licensed practical nurse, graduating at the top of his class. He was employed at the Charlotte Regional Medical Center in Punta Gorda. On February 1st, 1994, the mutilated corpse of a man was discovered. The body had been outside for about a month and had rope burns on the skin, and genitalia had been removed and discarded. The man was not identified until 2021, when the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office announced that new DNA testing confirmed the victim as Gerald Jerry Lombard of Lowell, Massachusetts. On January 1st, 1996, a Northport family's dog brought home a male human skull. Police eventually pieced together much of the skeleton and determined that the genitalia had been cut off. Similar to the 1994 victim Lombard, the Northport skeleton had not been identified. A third man's mutilated body was discovered in Northport on March 7, 1996. He had been killed only 10 days earlier. He also remained unidentified until June 1999, when he was identified as John William Melaragno. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm sorry. Forgive me. Melaragno. Another man's skull was found in Charlotte County, April 17, 1996. Police searched the surrounding woods and found the rest of the man as well as the second body. The second man was a man who had been raped, murdered, and mutilated only a day before, and was identified as Richard Allen Montgomery. The first body was later identified as Kenneth Lee Smith. Speculation became rampant about a serial killer, and the media dubbed the murders the Hog Trail killings, named for the wooded areas in which the bodies of the victims were found. In May 1996, a few witnesses directed police to Daniel Conahan, including one who had escaped him when Conahan's car became stuck while driving him down a dirt road. Later, police linked Conahan to a 1994 Fort Myers police report where Stanley Burden had been proposition tied to a tree and nearly strangled. I think he had marks on his neck. Burden survived, and he had rope scars on his body 2 years later. Conahan's credit cards were subpoenaed and his house was searched, turning up evidence linking him to both Burden and Montgomery. On July 3, 1996, Conahan was arrested and brought to Lee County for the attempted murder of Burden. The following February, he was charged with murder of Montgomery, while the attempted murder charges in the Burden case were dropped. While Conahan awaited trial, another skeleton was found in Charlotte County on May 22, 1997. 10 months later, DNA identified the remains as William Charles Patton, who had disappeared in 1993. Conahan was tried for the 1996 kidnapping murder of victim Richard Allen Montgomery. Conahan waived his right to a jury trial on August 9, 1999, thereby electing a bench trial. The star witness was Stanley Burden, who authorities allege had been nearly killed by Conahan in 1994. Conahan's attorney rebutted that Burden was an imprisoned pedophile serving a 10 to 25-year sentence in Ohio. On August 17, 1999, Judge William Blackwell deliberated for 25 minutes and found Conahan guilty of first-degree premeditated murder and kidnapping. Conahan succeeded in moving the penalty phase of his trial to Collier County, but in November a jury recommended a sentence of death, and Judge Blackwell agreed on December 10th. Conahan is currently housed at Union Correctional Institution in Florida. Several more bodies were discovered in the Charlotte County area with similarities to the Hog Trail killings. One in 2000, two in 2001, and one in 2002. On March 23, 2007, 8 skulls and skeletal remains were found in a wooded area in Fort Myers, the largest such discovery in Florida history. These became known as the Fort Meyers Eight, although a connection to a closed funeral home was considered possible. Speculation soon turned to Conahan. Stanley Burden, the star witness at Conahan's trial, had been attacked within a mile of the site where the 8 skeletons were found. 2 were later identified as men who had disappeared in 1995. The case was covered by many true crime television shows, such as The New Detectives, Most Evil, Forensic Factor, and Buried in the Backyard. So, and there's some reference and some links if you go to that. And then we have this is the one that is identified already. So, I don't know if I see his name. And this has way too many ads for me to do much with it. I don't know if you can see all the ads. It'll make me cut in and out. But that one, I believe, has been identified. So it's pretty gruesome and pretty horrific. So I would, here, I'll just go through it if you want to pause it and read it. There's the one. So it's horrific what he did to him. This one, it says he was found lying nude, lying on his back, he had ligature marks, he had died of strangulation, and his genitals had been removed with a sharp instrument. So, yeah, you never would have known it to look at him that he was, maybe now, but that other picture. It sounds pretty gruesome. And there's another article that is on the internet that talks. See, they thought it was a body dump by a funeral home. But they're all spread out, so they don't think it was, because they think if a funeral home would have done it, they would have been all dumped together. So, and then this man went missing in Fort Myers, Florida in 1983 or 1984. He was 43 or 44 years old, 5'11", black hair, hazel eyes. So I don't know if he could have been a victim. He was last seen at his residence. His vehicle's missing as well, though, so he could have been someone that drove in the water. I don't know. And then this man went missing from Florida in 1993. So there's quite a few that have gone missing that I wonder if they could have ended up being his victims. This man was last seen at Fort Walton Beach, so I don't know if he drowned. It says he was a U.S. Air Force veteran or what happened to him. So that is the video on that. And I might try to break it up and do it into individual videos later, but right now I just wanted to point that out because I thought, wow, I wonder how many people he killed, right? Anyway, if you know who any of these people might be, you should contact authorities. And don't forget to pray for their family and their loved ones. And thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great day. Bye-bye.